So let's call the meeting to order. If you so kindly see if we have met our quorum.
Manning? Woodhouse?
Yes.
Turk? Cosgrove?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Severson?
Present.
And Fleming?
Here.
Yes, we have 5.
Awesome. And verification, item number 3, verification of open meeting law compliance. Everything's been posted correctly. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Approval of agenda, an 11-point agenda. Looking for a motion to approve such agenda. Okay, Chad and Craig seconding that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Approved. Moving forward to approval of the minutes from December 6, 2024. I was not here for that meeting. I appreciate Supervisor Severson for taking care of that. Looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Under G, under emergency management, I do see a typo in there, but it says on here, Mike Jessen reported recent black water leak. Is that correct? Is that what the leak was?
I believe that was discussed at the last meeting.
Right, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what the leak was. Okay.
Mike, are you on? I see you're online. Can you,
I sure am. It was, believe it or not, there's a fine line between black water and gray water. But in that category, that is correct.
correct? Okay. Any questions?
Yes,
All right. Then looking for approval for the minutes.
I'll make a motion to.
Okay, Julie makes a motion, seconded by Chad Cosgrove. All any further discussion? All in favor, say so, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Very much. Item number 6, public comment. Any public comment, either online or in the room? Going once, going twice, public comment. Hearing none, moving on to item number 7, reports. Sheriff Department activities. I did not see anything in the folder.
Yes. So for December, I don't have monthly bills, so I don't have a voucher total for December yet. But we had 47 bookings in the jail, 29 inmates for average population, 332 monthly complaints, 11 traffic citations issued, 19 civil process papers served, and 6 transports on the month. Average number on electronic monitoring was 4. We had 602 calls for service in the dispatch center, 106 calls for EMS, 129 calls for the police department, and 24 calls for the fire department. Additionally, just to talk briefly on it, looking at my budget with the December reports coming through, we were slightly over on my admin budget, mostly due to salaries. But all of the other ones were at about 89 to 90% for the rest of my budget sheets, at least my major expense sheets. So there's still going to be some stuff coming out of those. I have some last minute equipment stuff that probably hasn't been subtracted from that yet. Some ammo that was purchased to close out that ammo line. And so there's still going to be some expenses, but we're sitting pretty good wrapping up the year. So additionally, we've hired another full-time employee to fill that 818 spot we've been trying to get for a long time now. So we hired Max Haugen, and he'll start on start on Sunday, full-time with us. So he's been working in the village of Muscatine for about the past 2.5 years, a little over now. He's got probably 3.5 or a little more full-time experience in law enforcement. And we're looking forward to getting him started here. And lastly, I do have some jail information that I'd like to share, and I'll turn it over to Devin for that.
So I handed out, sorry, Carrie, you're online, but I handed out a couple of just general numbers for the year in review. So the first one is the average daily population for us. So 2024 was our total average head count for the year. That sometimes feels a little low because it depends on, somebody might not be here for the full. So our average daily population is calculated at midnight. The report is run at midnight. So if somebody's released before midnight, then they're not in that.
You could have 5 people booked in that day and out that day, and that wouldn't reflect on your total.
Right. Yep. And then our average for EMP was 7. The one in other facilities, so that can be a little bit confusing. People sometimes think that's jail. That's actually a mental health facility. We've had a couple this year that have been court ordered for treatment to competency. So we have one currently that's in a facility. The next page, and we'll talk about this, I think you guys maybe have briefly mentioned it, but as part of our jail inspection report, one thing that we struggle with is classification compliance, specifically with females. This year, we've worked really, really hard to get our classification stuff more in line, which we've done a great job with for the males. The females are the issue when we get a sentenced or low, a minimum classification female, because we don't have a lot of space to separate them, so they often end up being housed together. So this is just some rough numbers. I didn't start tracking the classification until February of last year. So these are based off of the lowest amount of numbers if we were to ship people, females, to other counties. It doesn't, I put on there, it doesn't take into consideration difficult inmates because other counties obviously aren't going to take our problems. And it doesn't take into account longevity of stay. So meaning if they're only going to be here for a day, it's not worth it for us to take them to Iowa or Grant or Vernon and then come right back. And then transportation costs and medical costs, that's not included in this either, but specifically for the females, if we were to move the lowest amount of females, it would have been around $18,660 last year, just for the housing. And then males, which I don't anticipate that to be an issue because we've got that kind of straightened out this year, as far as our housing goes. So, but if we included them for last year, that would be, the total would be 27,300. So just some rough numbers. And then the EMP summary. So our electronic monitoring program, we've also been doing some work on kind of getting that straightened back out. And we made approximately $63,344 in profit from EMP. Also, we have included in that is Huber. So we did have 217 days last year of working Hubers, and we have another one that's getting ready to go out on Huber next week. Questions?
Question for the committee. Any idea what the total bookings are?
Around 634.
How is that relating to like the last couple of years?
Not sure. I think it's pretty on par, but I haven't looked at the past couple of years.
2024, 634. And your yearly EMP summary, you said 63,000 is, what are your expenses on that? Is that, I'm just.
Yep, so the fees are included there. So the daily, our bracelet fee, there's a per day fee for each bracelet. That went up $2 in the middle of the year, so it's now $8. So anybody who's actively out gets charged the $8 a fee, $8 a day fee. And then you'll see there's a couple, so they do urine tests, drug tests randomly. We try to do at least one every 2 weeks. And occasionally there will be a dispute, so that gets sent into the lab. And then the cups, to order the urine cups is a fee.
I ask a question even though I'm not the expert.
Absolutely.
On the daily head count, is there a way, or do you guys keep track as to whether or not the inmates are in jail because they're on a P&P hold, or they're awaiting a revocation, or they're on a sentence, because my impression is people who are really sitting in your jail are on bond or they're awaiting revocation. It's
Most
mostly,
of them.
it's mostly P&P actions, not straight sentences. But you don't keep track of that particularly, and that's okay. I'm just wondering.
We don't, I could, we don't,
So that way we know who's sitting.
most of who's sentenced, there are a few, sentencings after revocations that we have. And then there's a couple sanctions from probation, but most of the sentence people we have are court sentences. We just got rid of, we had about 9 for a couple months there, and now we're down to 5.
Maybe we can talk about.
Yeah.
Figure out who's actually in the jail.
Yeah.
If it's us or if it's P&P.
Yeah.
If it's us or if it's P&P.
Yes.
So your booking software, you're not identifying what the segregation or what the reasoning is?
We do in the booking software, it's just not, we don't have it out in a report anymore.
Okay, so
When
it's
they're supposed
in
to-
there. You just have to find some way to pull it out as a report or something.
Yes, although often if they come in on a new charge and a probation hold, they'll get a signature bond for the charge, but the hold will remain. There's no way to really track that in our booking software, if that makes sense.
But sentenced and unsentenced, probation hold,
Yes.
I mean, those things would be available in a report.
Yes,
The data's there, we just have to find the report to generate that. Sounds like.
yes, yep.
As far as the EMP, you said it's an $8 a day fee, is part of their ability to pay that, is that part of the reasoning whether they're able to be doing that?
Yes.
So everyone who's on that program can pay the $8.
So the fee actually for them to go out on electronic monitoring is $30 a day.
Oh.
Is what the county charges. And then our fee that we pay to the company for the use of the bracelets is $8 a day.
Gotcha, okay. So then my question is, of course, are they physically able to pay the $30? If they are not able to pay, then they're not eligible for the program, is that correct?
Yep. We require them to pay ahead.
So it's about $600 a month for them.
Yep.
Yeah, and oftentimes when they're paying that, like you asked the question about us collecting.
Yeah.
People that are on Huber, they can only pay one thing or the other.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So just no, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I mean, it's good that the county gets it, but it's notable.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was on ability to pay, and obviously it is. They're not able to pay that.
Well, they just don't get out.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Right,
yeah,
right.
which is different than. Yeah.
Thank you.
You got anything more?
That's fine.
Okay. Just one thing to, squad update. We did have a squad, involved in the car deer crash. It's pretty significant damage. In the last month, about $10,000 worth of damage. So we're waiting to hear from the insurance company on what the status of that's gonna be. And then I believe the mileage report is in, if anybody has any questions about that.
Other questions from the committee on the sheriff's reports?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Carrie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. We had just got in the chat that you can't hear anything, so I just.
Who did? Oh, Dave. All right, Dave, are you there? Can you hear us now?
Where's the microphone? Further.
Well, Carrie's hearing us, okay.
Yeah, you're coming in really good.
All right, thank you. We're gonna give just a moment here to make sure we get everything running. Okay, and Mike, can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir, I can. I just can't find the unmute button.
Okay,
He's gonna try to reach me.
all right. No, that's fine. That's how we make sure everybody can hear and everybody has access, so. All right, anything else from sheriff's reports then? All right, moving on then, to the coroner report, department activities. I see there is a report in there. Mike, are you addressing that or are we just?
Yes, sir.
Please do so.
So for the year-end total numbers and statistics here for the coroner's office, we handled 120 cases in 2024. Year prior was 147 cases, so a bit of a downward trend there. But the 10-year overall average is certainly up. Responded to a total of 4 suicides. We had 0 murder or homicides on the books for 2024 and 0 overdose deaths. We did have 7 accidental deaths we investigated. One was an ATV accident, and that ended up being long-lasting complications from that for many years after the original incident. 1 asphyxia, motorcycle accident, 1 woodcutting accident, a motor vehicle accident, had 1 medical negligence, and a workplace fall. So 8 total accidental deaths a year prior. Youngest decedent this year was 19 years old. Last year was age 5. Oldest decedent was 108, and last year right on that same mark. 112 out of 120 cases were cremations with 8 traditional burials, which is a pretty significant downward trend. 57 of 120 cases were in hospice. 43 out of 147 cases were in hospice last year. We did have 3 autopsies in 2024, down from the year prior, 20 autopsies. We have 0 pending cases at this time. We have determinate cause for all cases for 2024. There were 7 cases pending the carryover year last year. And Mr. Rossing just wanted to share that if anybody has questions, comments, concerns, or if there's further information you'd like to let him know. And thank you to all the departments and agencies that we work with. Your partnerships and support are vital to the operation of the coroner's office. So happy New Year to everybody from Jim.
Thank you. Real quickly, so 7 accidental deaths, 1 motor vehicle accident death last year?
As reported, that's correct. There were some other cases where a motor vehicle accident was listed as a maybe secondary or tertiary cause, where somebody may have had a medical event leading to the motor vehicle accident, therefore dying prior to crashing.
Pretty low number in the county if we only had 1.
Our overdose death number and motor vehicle death number is a phenomenal thing to have here.
I would just note that people generally don't overdose on meth. They overdose on heroin and other narcotics. So when heroin's on the rise, heroin's kind of a self-correcting problem in that people die of heroin overdoses. People don't die of meth. I'm not sure why. I've asked medical persons why. And so we don't have hardly any heroin cases coming through court or narcotic cases. It's all meth. So it might partly be due to the nature of what illicit drugs people are using.
I'm not sure I fully agree with that statement, Mr. Chair, but I understand where that statement is coming from. But it's not that there is a lack of narcotics in the county. I think Sheriff can probably also attest to that. We do have some great responders that when overdoses are happening, we are meeting these people in their time of need and preserving life. So.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else for the coroner committee? Questions? Hearing no other questions, thank you very much. Moving on to the circuit court judge. Department activity.
Okay, good morning. So just real quickly, just a lot of irons in the fire as usual. So I don't have an update as to the installation of the cameras, that we're supposed to have cameras
Still working on.
installed, and the optimistic anticipation was that it would be done by the end of the year, but that has not occurred. I didn't feel like it had happened, but I didn't know for sure.
There are some that have been installed upstairs, correct?
Yeah, yep. Some of the cameras.
Can you tell
have been
where they're at?
installed, but, we've got card access has been installed in some locations. Cameras have been installed in some locations, but it's not complete.
I asked them on Tuesday when they were here and they said at least a couple more weeks.
Great. All right, so we're looking forward to that. So there will be cameras installed, I believe, outside each courtroom. or outside the courtroom on either side, and then one in the small courtroom. That's at least what pertains to us in the courtroom. We did get a kiosk from the campus, a little, some people might call it a lectern. You're welcome to stop up and take a look at it. It's a nice looking piece of furniture, and it's going to be and is being used by the court security officer as sort of a station. And the long-term plan is to, it's got enough space where the officer could set a tablet and hopefully look at what's happening from different camera views to help enhance security. So we have that up there. We're still trying to figure out what the best positioning of that is. There's differing views on that. We still need to address the great need for chairs in the courtroom. We have about half of the chairs that we need. It looks, again, fairly ridiculous in there. And we do need to replace a couple, 2, 3, 4 juror chairs in the jury room. We have chairs in there, but they're just not as nice and comfortable as the chairs that were in there. So that's another long-term goal for us. We did get set up a law library, a digital law library piece, the computer where people can, the public can access some legal research. And that is a required, we're required to maintain a law library. So the public can come in and do some legal research. It's pretty basic, fundamental research capabilities, but it allows people to access Wisconsin case law and the statutes. So that's really nice. There was another piece of furniture brought over from the campus. It's sort of a 2-station desk that sits in the hallway down on the 2nd floor there. And there's 2 computers. One computer simply gives people access to CCAP, which you all can access, frankly, on your phones. But the one that's sitting in the hallway downstairs actually lets you look at what's in court files. So it's the equivalent of what people used to do in the old days, where they would go into the clerk's office, ask for the file, a paper file would be brought out, and you could actually look at and read all of the documents. So that's what that computer in the hallway allows people to do, unless it's a confidential document. You can look at all of the documents in the court file. Whereas if you're accessing CCAP at home, you're just able to see that there are documents. You're not able to see what those documents are. So I think it's a nice little station down there. We're still looking forward to accomplishing some Zoom capabilities in the small courtroom. We need to, as they say, circle back around and continue to figure that piece out. I think we have money for that, but IT, of course, is very, very busy, and they operate by the tyranny of the urgent, like many of us do. I am going to be attending the annual court security conference in March up in Appleton. So hopefully I'll be able to come back and report some stuff to this committee and to the county as a whole. Good things about court security. I know that we've had a deputy in the past, at least one, attend the same conference, and I hear that it's really excellent. Next week, we will convene our Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. As I mentioned in the past, there are 2 sort of subcommittees that I'm required to convene. One is the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. The other is the Courthouse Security and Facilities Committee. So next week, those meet quarterly. So next week we will meet, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee will meet. That is the oversight committee for our treatment court. But it's really also an excellent opportunity for all of the different players in the criminal justice system to come together, talk about issues, and try to collaborate together. Personally, I think it's been a good opportunity for us to meet and talk about things that are important for this county. Our treatment court, speaking of treatment court, our treatment court is funded by a state grant. It's called a TAD grant, TAD standing for Treatment and Diversion, I believe. And so our grant for next year was approved by the state. So that's approximately 100, I think we have it's $130,000 grant per year. That's nice, it's nice, it's good for the county to understand that that program is not funded by the county, it's funded by the state. And we've enjoyed having that program, but glad that the county doesn't bear the responsibility for funding that. That may change in the future, who knows? We've had our treatment court since 2017, and it's pretty much been funded by the TAD grant since then. This last year, there was a slight change. The TAD grant required the program to find another funding source for the incentives. Treatment court is essentially an incentive-based program for people who are tangled up in the criminal justice system because of addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And so we use incentives and sanctions to help them find that road to recovery. So incentives are very important. We did apply for some of the opiate settlement funds in order to buy our incentives, which are basically often, frankly, silly little rewards, but extremely important and it's extremely meaningful to our participants in recognition of, the hard work that they're doing. And psychologically and every other way, it's very important. So we do have funds for that for next year. I have also recently realized that there is, frankly, a lack of understanding about what treatment court is and that a need for education about treatment court because it is a court program, but frankly, it's the only court program that heavily relies on the support of the county to be successful. And if we don't have understanding, education, and support from the county, we're not going to be able to do this. And it's such a unique program, and it's a unique program in the history of criminal justice. There's never been anything like it. And the reason we all believe in it so much is we've seen really amazing outcomes for people who have spent literally decades mired in addiction, in and out of the criminal justice system. So
But not unique to Richland County. But not unique to Richland County. A unique program overall, but not unique to Richland County. We're not.
Most
just-
counties
We
have.
have best practices, we have things.
Oh,
but they're.
right. We're not doing this alone. I'm just saying in the history of criminal justice generally, treatment court is a new thing on the scene. So even those of us that have been doing this for a long time, we need training, we need education ourselves, and we need to make sure that we're educating other people about what it is, because there is a huge series of best practices that need to be followed because it's all evidence-based. And if we aren't trained in that, and people don't understand how important it is for us to follow best practices in order to get the best outcomes, we just, the whole thing is going to fall apart. There's no point. Might as well just continue to house people and incarcerate them because they're addicts if we can't find good outcomes for them, because it's a lot of work and it requires a lot of investment from all of our team members. We have a multidisciplinary team. We have people from all different areas of the criminal justice system, corrections, law enforcement, DA's office, the judge. We've got victim witness, we've got defense attorneys. We all come together every other week and we meet about our group of participants, up to 15 people in our program. And we talk about how they're doing. And we try to very carefully and methodically apply that system of incentives and sanctions to move them through this program, which frankly is a minimum of 14 months. Much harder for these folks than putting them in jail for a while. Much harder than just putting them on probation. are putting them in prison, and then they get out and often they're set up to fail again. So anyway, I just say that because I think we just need to continue to talk about treatment court and make sure that the folks that are on the county board are invited to participate, invited to learn and come. So we're trying to think of ways to make sure that we do.
So the $130,000 in grant funding, so the committee knows covers what? You have some staff, you have.
Yes, primarily, I think the majority of that is our, so we employ one full-time coordinator, Savannah Huber now, was Ducharme, who's on maternity leave right now. But, yeah, and so that, there's a lot of money is used for drug testing, drug and alcohol testing. We use some of that, a little of that for training. I'm just trying to think now what else we use it for. But yeah, and frankly, we have a little bit of wiggle room. The county now, Health and Human Services is got a new position. I forget what that position is called, but
Reentry coordinator.
okay. So a little bit of our funds are going to be used to for another position through HHS that's geared toward folks who need help with substance use and abuse. And so our goal is to grab people that get arrested and try to get them assessed to see if they're appropriate for treatment court as soon as possible. And that person can help and can help with some of the other challenges that we have in treatment court. For example, like transportation, looking for things that you wouldn't normally think. Some of these folks have lost their license. Some of them that have higher OWIs, they've lost their license, frankly, for life. That's what the law requires now. And so they need to get to some of their meetings. They need to get to their drug testing. And every once in a while, we need somebody that needs help with transportation. So that would be one example.
How many people are on the program right now?
Oh, boy. I don't remember how many participants we have right now. We just had one graduate last month. We're going to have another graduate in a little while.
Thanks.
We can have up to 15. We were at capacity at some point last year, but we've had a few people graduate out. So they're coming and going at any given time.
You're maxing it out, it sounds like.
Well, we had, which was also very exciting. We did that for the first time. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Any questions? I think that's a great program.
One thing, and all of the participants are Richland County residents.
Yes, that's one of the eligibility requirements is that participants be local. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, we don't need, we want to make sure that our community, right, is healthy and thriving. So we're trying, well, we do try to vet these people to make sure that they're homegrown, basically, that they're from here, they're probably going to stay here. And whoever is in our program must be on probation. And if they aren't residents here, then they can be on probation wherever they're at, but they won't have our local probation officer, who's an integral part of our team. So they have to be a resident of the county, they have to be here, and they have to be being supervised by the probation officer that is on our team. So, yes, that's a really good point.
Because if they're a resident, say in Grant County also has, I believe they have alcohol and drug court. And yeah, they have two. And so if they're a resident of Grant County, then they would need to apply through and be vetted down there by their teams. But our treatment court isn't serving anybody who is not a Richland County person. So I think that's an important distinction of how these work.
It is, and speaking of eligibility and education, we are required to take folks that are high risk and high need.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to find folks that aren't going to succeed any other way. And so we use assessment tools to determine whether somebody is both high risk to reoffend and have high needs. And that would be basic functioning in life, like residential instability, employment instability, those things that cause people to fall back into the black hole over and over again. So we're not looking for people who we can come in and just pat on the back and send off. We need people who need some serious help and serious work. I mean, it's very gratifying to see some of these folks who've literally spent decades in this cycle of addiction, find their way out and find those little successes. So yeah, so just so you know, it is hard work. It's hard work for all of us, especially and including our treatment providers who are also an integral part of our team, who I don't think I mentioned as team members.
But that goes back to our training and best practices, because we know best practices says we have to have high risk, high need, not high risk, low need, which we've seen with some people. And so that's how you get the best outcomes, is being, is even at the entry level, having the people who need in the program who have the most success. And we know, both in the prison system and in treatment, you cannot put people with different needs in the same program together. Usually it makes the people with lower end needs worse over time. And so we have to keep getting trained on the emerging studies as to who is appropriate for these kind of programs, because that has changed and we're having new best practices. We've moved to a different system now, even since our treatment court has been in place. So they're emerging trends, and that's why we have to keep on top of them to get the best outcomes. Sorry to interrupt, Judge.
No, I appreciate your input. Thank you.
It is not a free pass out of prison, which I have heard people,
It's terrible.
I've heard people say that, and heard people in prominent positions within the county say that, and it is not.
And I've heard defense attorneys say that it's better for their client to go to prison than go into treatment court, because treatment court's too hard and their clients can't do it. It's hard.
Good to know. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? For the judge? All right. Great program and great to hear the funding continues. All right, moving on then to item number D, clerk of court. Good morning. Thank you for your email and the numbers on that.
Yes, Tammy Newberry is always really helpful to get stuff for me, and I would see if she could whip up the latest up-to-date expenditures, knowing that she wouldn't be able to do up-to-date revenues. And she confirmed, she would need a little bit of time for that. With the first being a holiday for January, I did the reconciliation and the payment to the county and the state and the city of Richland Center yesterday on the 2nd. So now I have given the county treasurer some large checks and reports that detail how those large checks need to be split out and where the payments go and which accounts get credited. So that will take some time for Tammy Newberry, Tammy Wheelock, the fiscal specialist, to make sure those get into the right pots. The treasurer just does a lump receipt, and then the fiscal specialist looks at the details that I provided her. So she and I will continue working to make the account numbers that she uses match the account numbers that are standardized in the state, in the uniform chart of accounts, the detailed reporting that goes to the director of state courts. That's the stuff that we've been moving towards, but with the Tyler conversion, it's a little whatever. It's gonna be a little difficult, but it needs to happen. And so as we do that, we're gonna do it over the next 2 months here. Because the budget as it's set and with the line items uses the account numbers the county has always used. County's finance department's always used, but we need to convert to the standard uniform chart of account numbers that are used throughout the state. So the revenue will probably just see like total numbers. Everything's gonna look weird in the columns.
As it transitions.
Yeah, it's gonna have to look like that this year. And that was part of the reason that throughout the years there was hesitancy for people to do it. But it's like, okay, now, and I do that uniform chart of account every year. If I gave it to the finance department to do like many counties do, they probably would have wanted to convert those numbers much earlier. And so Tammy and I have looked, and I've shown her how I prepare the uniform chart of accounts. And as she sees that, she's like, oh, yeah, like this would suck this way. And so she's really helpful. We'll get it going so that in future years, it won't be so evil to get done. Because it's a critical piece that helps the county get their state court aid, their support payment for the court each year, which is that payment that the Clerks of Court Association have been working with the legislature, trying to get that raised. This is the final budget push now. We're trying to get a huge amount of money influx into the county's portion of the court system. The director of state courts wants a lesser amount. I talked to you guys about that. And so we're marching ahead as the elected officials from the county portion of the state-county partnership. And we are working with the Wisconsin Counties Association. And the last publication of the County Association, I think they explained the court funding piece. They're on board with us. They're our partner. We don't have as elected officials, we don't have a lobby down at the Capitol. We've got the County Association. That's why we pulled them in. So that was kind of a huge benchmark achievement for the clerks of court this past couple years, I guess, that we've been working on that. So hopefully that support payment is going to increase. But that support payment, I don't count as collections. It's aid, it's support. It's not money that comes across the counter, handed to us by somebody that we're collecting from, mailed in by somebody we're collecting from, paid online, same way, all of that. The reports that I give to you, when I show you what our collections, our revenues are, those do not, well, they do have that, you'll see that state aid part on there. But you ask what the total amount due is. That is a ever-flowing number. Every day, money is added to that. Every single day, every time we have traffic court, huge amounts are added to that. But also people are paying at the same time. There's bond money sitting in trust accounts, probably over $100,000 that I'm holding right now of bonds for dozens of cases. I could tell you exactly by looking at them. But at some point when they reach conviction of those cases, that bond money will be applied towards fine or cost. I don't know what the adjudication of those cases is going to be. So I can't tell you what's owed.
Right, I was just looking more like just the fines and all that, not necessarily bond information,
Well,
but just a ballpark.
But fine, okay, so, and the thing with fines also, fines, when you say a fine, like a traffic fine, it consists of maybe like 10 different accounts. And there's only one part that's the fine, that's the base. The rest of it are fees and surcharges set by statute by the state legislature. So over the last 3 decades, those portions of the fines, they've increased their surcharges that go to them. But the state or the county portion, what we're allowed to keep, has remained the same. And so that's a separate piece of what the clerks of court are working with the lawmakers, and Representative Kurtz is drafting legislation to help us increase some of the county retained fees. We don't know if they're going to say, what? You want this big increase in the support payment and you want to increase fees for the county? We don't know how that's all going to go. But our biggest plus in it all is that they haven't increased for 30 years. So when you look at the total of what's owed on a ticket, you can't just say that's going to be $175 coming to the county, because you're lucky if it's 25, if it's 30. So that's why it's very difficult to say. But I could look at particular accounts. It'd be easier to look at what do people owe for attorney fees, because that's 100% county money. You know, that sort of thing, whereas tickets are very
Sounds like it's
difficult.
too difficult to even.
But I could tell you some accounts, but I can't ever say, because it's going to change the next time a case is adjudicated. So, and there's literally thousands of cases. There's like 3,000 to 4,000 cases filed in my office every year. So that's,
So,
yeah, I did, look, just out of curiosity the other day and kind of whatever. It's like, as I start into this year, you know, just always kind of reflecting on years past. Since I started as a clerk of court, our office has pulled in for the county, not for any other partners, and not including support payments, over $4 million. And so this year, as I look at where we're at, and I was actually surprised that right now we're still like under budget, but attorney fees will probably change that. But I'm also not reminding attorneys if they haven't billed us. That's their problem. If they need to, you know, in order to get paid by the county and the money to come out of my budget, they need to bill. When they do bill, it'll go on to 2025 even if it's 24 expenses. I'm not gonna hound them about it. If they know that they're owed money, they need to get their invoices in. So that number where we're at right now, you see that we supposedly still have $69,000 left unspent in our budget. That's gonna keep going down, but I hope it stays on the positive side. I really do. But at any rate, not including that money that I paid out to the treasurer yesterday, we're over $70,000 excess in our revenues collected.
then what you had projected,
Over what
For
we
this-
projected, yeah, and the projections were, I inch the projections up every year, yeah, they're not, it's not a lowball number. So I guess my ask with that, and whatever, I'm just gonna ask, because it never hurts. I would like to see if we end up with a net excess, which I think that we're going to, that we finish off the chairs in the courtroom. That we're able to purchase the chairs. They're not in any budget expenditure line item, and we can't put them in any capital project because they're not considered capital. A chair isn't considered capital. And so that it's been so difficult to get, I mean, this is a basic need. We need chairs for people to sit on. It needs to look like a respectable courtroom. And our jury room needs to have chairs that are not from like whatever decade. They were from just out of whatever. Yeah, respect for the court. The Kenosha County Clerk of Court will be the new, she is now the new Clerk of Court Association president. And so when she and I transitioned and a couple weeks back, and we went over the different things that need to happen when that occurs, and I gave her a tour. She took pictures of a lot of things, and they have a very old courthouse in Kenosha. They're very proud of it. Have restored, and they really take good care of. And she took a little video apparently of going from the front door of the clerk of court's office back to where my office is in the vault, and showed it to her chief, and he said, that's like, didn't say hobbit hole. That's like better than like Harry Potter, like how they live under the stairs. That's like, that is the most awesome thing that I've seen, but not like awesome as in so cool. But just things like, you know, and then I was seeing the court kind of through her eyes, the metal door that goes from out from the elevator into the courtroom, it still needs framed out. It's still the exposed wall. It's not done. And it's been that way for, I don't know, was it this past year? I mean, months at least. There's places in the, you know, like where there's like a swirl of paint that's like a different color on the wall. She said, what is this? And I said, they filled a hole. Like, they fixed it. And she's like, what's this? And I'm like, well, they fixed it. She's like, is paint like, you know, is there a whatever on paint here? And I'm like, Becky, you're not in Kenosha. Like, this is Richland County. This is where the struggle is real in the rural counties. This is what it's like. This is why we need more funding, because we can't keep up our courthouses. But most years, our revenue has greatly exceeded our projections, and most years the net has been significant. So I think that we just need to say, let's use it. I know it goes into the general fund, so somebody uses it, but it hasn't been us. And it needs to happen because it is hard work. Doing what we do, doing it with the lightest staff in the state. And still, we do it. So that's off my soapbox. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you for the comments and the items and the idea. I have some thoughts now that I know. Now that you shared that, I have some ideas that I want to work on with that angle there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else then for the clerk report? Any questions? Ready? Thoughts? All right. Moving on then, register and probate.
Thank you. Good morning. In our office, we're always busy, of course, and particularly this time of year, we've completed all of our reviews. They're called Watts reviews, where people that are under protected placement go through a series of reviews from the county and also from guardian ad litems. And so we've completed our annual reviews in December for the entire year. Also, this time of year, we have accounting that gets sent out to all the guardians in our office, well, all the guardians that have responsibilities for wards. And currently, we have about 185 wards that need reporting. So we send out all the paperwork for the conditions of these wards, as well as the accounting if they need to provide financial accounting to us. So that's what I've been busy working on, is sending, it's like writing Christmas cards to about 180 people. But these are the annual reports that are required by April 15th on all of the wards that we have come through our office. So that's kind of been a huge undertaking, just because there's mass amounts of them. And just to do all these reports in between all the other things that come in and out of our office. But to my knowledge, we're still under budget, so that's a good thing. We're starting a new year, so we'll see how 2025 works out. And Jenny wasn't able to be here today, so I got to come in her place.
And for those of you that don't know Jenny Marroquin, she is our Jenny Lau's assistant. She's been with us, I think, a little over a year now.
It'll be 2 years in March.
2 years.
Wow.
She's been a wonderful addition to our office. She's got a wonderful manner with people. We get a lot of irate, upset, or anxious phone calls. So she's very calming influence on people on the other end of the phone. Has done a wonderful job. So, yeah, and I will just say all of those 185 people Watts reviews, each one of those people has to have a hearing. So this time of year, we have a hearing for each one of them on if they want to challenge their placement, they can do that. So there's a lot that goes into that.
And they are Richland County residents, correct? Otherwise, wouldn't their cases be in another county?
Actually, we have multiple that live throughout the state.
Well, they're placed. They're Richland County residents, but they may be.
But they were Richland County residents.
That is correct, yeah.
Sometimes placement is hard to find, but good homes or placements or institutions, depending on where somebody's at.
Depending on their need, they might be placed in a facility that, is a locked facility. That's something we just don't have in this county. But yeah, they are originally from Richland County.
And as well, your part is keeping the records and keeping everything managed for one of the most vulnerable populations.
Yes.
Good way to put it.
Any questions?
Questions for Rich probably? Thank you. Anything with biddings? Good, thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, District Attorney.
Happy New Year's. Yay. My New Year's resolution is to have a better attitude about meetings. So we'll take a survey from all of you. All of you have lots of meetings. See if that bears fruit at the end of the month or at the end of the year. So lots of good news, although I'll start with the one sort of cloud. and I don't know if I talked to the judge about this. I had a hearing in the small courtroom yesterday. It had to be the small courtroom because the large courtroom was being used for Zoom. And we had Judge Luke Steiner. I made a record, and Judge Steiner, amongst all the judges that come to Richland County, are very disturbed by the fact that the witness in any given case sits within 3 feet of them with no barrier. Literally, the judge is on the bench and the witness is here. Maybe.
That's very close. You can
This
read
is, you can reach out and touch witnesses. Witnesses are hostile. It is very unsafe. Yes, we have uniform, sheriff's department has done what the sheriff's department can do. We have an officer there in the courtroom. This being this close to a judge is bad. And we've done it for years. I don't know that we think about it that much, but we have new judges that come here and are quite appalled by that. So he was here yesterday. I don't know if I told you about that.
He's
but
the Crawford County.
he's a Crawford County judge. But other than that, we have lots of good things. First, I'm so happy that I don't have to deal with revenue. I'm a revenue generating department, and I never will be. Thank you, Stacey, for all your numbers, because I couldn't manage to do it. We are getting new computers for our office. Those are all provided by the state. So now we are all up and working to have laptops. Laptops obviously can be used at different areas of the courthouse. They can be used from home. I know our victim witness people take their laptops home because they get calls in the middle of the night, on the weekend, from law enforcement saying, hey, we've got this no contact with a victim, or a victim contacts us and we need to have our information, our internal information. So it's nice that those are all being switched out. They're all new and they are all provided for by the state. So those are good things. I appreciate the work on the wage study. There were some issues with the initial things that came back to my office. I have 3 staff members. There was something wasn't being correctly addressed in those, so I was able to provide more information, and that corrected where everyone should be on the scale. I told my staff, I think that they're appropriate where they are on the levels. My staff thinks that as well, and so hopefully at some point I'll be able to move up the steps before I retire. They'll get from here to there, but as of right now, they're happy about that, and we appreciate the work that was done on that. Of course, none of our offices work in a vacuum. I've worked with Devin on a number of things, also with the judge. We're working on new book and release packets for the new year that clarify some information that needs to be clarified, that gets rid of some paperwork that just does not need to be attached. Those can be put in place once we have the chief judge of the district has to sign off on them, has to sign off on some court rules that will effectuate the new book and release packet. So we're hoping to get that done. Worked on getting some Spanish translations of some documents that we need defendants to, we need to have them from defendants, but the jail has to get them to the defendants. So we worked on some Spanish translations of those. I think that went very well. I under budget this year, 94% out of 100%. So we're about $14,000 under what my budget was for this year. There are some things that might look a little funky on the budget sheet that I handed out. One of them is paper service. So when we have to get witnesses for trials, so the judge is setting trials, there's kind of a new system compared to what we used to have. Trials are getting set more quickly in order to resolve cases more quickly. There's sort of a overarching policy decisions that go with that. And so when cases are set for trial, we ship out all of our notices for all of our witnesses. They have to be served. Other counties just hammer us with service fees. So last year we had $2,000 worth of service fees for Grant County to get the service fee and serve someone in the jail. Lots of money that we have to spend to other counties for that. I sign those bills quite often. I find them to be quite irritating. And then I come to the jail, I come to the sheriff's department, like, why can't you charge $300 a service fee, which is not what they charge. You've heard this from me many times. And the last thing is I mentioned before, so I won't give you the historical underpinning for this, but in my office by the state. So I am elected by the county, but I'm actually a state employee. So I'm a state employee. So it's just like the judge. We are elected here, but I'm a state employee, and basically the county, I'm a contract employee from the state for the county. The county contracts with the state to employ me. And that goes for any assistant district attorneys as well. So the state pays, instead of the county, the state pays for my salary and assistant DA salary, all our benefits, healthcare, all of those kind of things come through the state. My assistant, so Amy, assistant DA prosecutor, she is 0.8 of a full-time position. She is not a full-time assistant district attorney. So she also has this other position within the county as assistant corporation counsel to handle hearings that come on very quickly. But we are the only non-full-time position in the state of Wisconsin. They're either half-time positions, which then are like half grant funded through the federal government and half paid by the state. So we're the only one. If you look at all, we have 435.8 ADAs in the state. So I went to the state and asked for this position to, at this point, be increased to a full-time position. We had the numbers to underpin that. Last numbers that came out from the state, we should have, I think, 2.3 prosecutors in this office based on our caseload. And of course, we have 1.8. So we had the numbers to underpin it. So we've asked for a 0.2 increase in ADAs to pull our ADA up to one person. That's about $20,000 a year to the state. However, the district attorney's department through the state has asked for 54.2 new positions across the state. So my concern is the governor is going to say, we are not going to give 54.2 new positions in assistant DAs across the state. And my little tiny 0.2 is going to get swallowed up in a big no for a big number. So I'm working with our administrator in Madison. When the state budget comes out, I anticipate that the legislature's budget will have these new positions in it. And then I'm going to have to start trucking around Madison saying, I know they're asking for a lot. I just need a little bit of money for a little bit of a position. And we're different compared to every other county in the state. So I may be looking for a letter from this committee saying we're the only county in the state that has this situation. It's an anomaly. It needs to get fixed. And if you're going to say a big no, at least give us a little yes. So
yeah, the state budget is this year.
Yep, it's this year.
So the
Yep,
state
it's every
budget
2
process has started as of
Yep.
today technically, and normally is approved then in July.
Yep.
Normally.
Yep. So what'll happen is
That's something we have to be.
so the
effective this week.
so the legislature will put out its or the Department of Administration will put out its budget, I think, in March, and then the governor is going to do what the governor's going to do, and then everyone's going to do, and then there's going to be a lot of who gets what and how do we get it. And so I talked to our person in Madison, it's Amanda Mott, about what signals we're getting from the governor at this point about that, right? Because they all have conversations just like we have conversations. And she said those won't start until after DOA puts out their budget. So that's going to be in March. And at that point, if they're just going to say yes, then I'm just going to keep my head down. And if anyone's rattling about, no, we don't want to do this or that or the other thing, then I'm going to start going around and
So
doing what I do best.
And the legislative hearings, you hear about that because there will be budget hearings.
Yeah.
When those topics come up, please let us know or me
Yep.
know, because I'm down there periodically.
Yep.
For some of those things, I'd be happy to.
You could sign in to speak at them.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yep.
Happy to do that. Yep.
I did. At the
Yeah,
same-
we were at one of the same.
All right, very good.
So that's where we are.
All right. Thank you. So that's in the works. We have to see what
See what the future holds.
the future holds, but we got a plan and that's good.
Got a plan.
All right, questions for the district attorney? Anybody? Questions here? All right, thank you very much. Yep. Moving on, item G, emergency management.
Good morning again. So we closed out 2024, total usage of about 89% of our budget. So we had allocated $79,427 in Fund 10 for operational expenses 2024. Certainly discovered where we had some deficiencies in that budget moving forward into next year, and I think we've got those pretty well adjusted. But again, total usage of 89% there. December has been filled with grant closeout things. With emergency management, an exceptional number of grants, an exceptional number of grant requirements, as well as grant reporting. So we're still working through getting all that wrapped up with our final financial report due for the hazmat grants in by the end of this month. So working with John on that and pushing through. I would like to either the February or March public safety meeting to do a presentation on the Office of Emergency Management, what we're working on and where we're trying to move going forwards. And I will have a full year-end closeout for you guys at that time. We're just inundated with the grant requirements and things, and I don't have a full annual report for you this meeting. I apologize. But otherwise, we had no significant responses, no significant situations that we encountered through the month of December. Look forward to the new year.
Okay, so you said February or March. Would March work better, just to make sure you have everything put together in time frame on that?
That would be great.
All right, let's just plan that for March, then we'll mention that as future agenda items, and we will talk about that and get that taken care of. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for emergency management for Mike? Committee? Okay, nothing there. Moving on, item H, PSAP and GIS grants. Anything new? I don't see Barbara, anyone on? Nothing new, okay. I guess as a highlight to that budget process that the state's going through will also affect what those numbers will be for next year's GIS and PSAP grant. So there's, I think it was 18 million and 6 million. You said 18 million, I think was the GIS, or for the PSAP, I think it was 8 million for the GIS. So hopefully we'll see those same numbers. So please, from the sheriff's department side, think about what you can use it for, what it needs. I mean, because there's good funding out there for that. Radio tower project.
We haven't met in the last couple of weeks on the project. We kind of suspended our weekly meetings for the holidays, so I don't have much of an update on that. And I'm trying to just recall since the last meeting. I know the Gotham Tower has been stacked, but I can't remember if that was done by at the last meeting or not. But the Gotham Tower had been stacked.
Built, when you say stacked.
Yeah, it's all.
Okay.
And
Keysville.
I don't know if they started stacking Keysville yet or not.
Remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have a projection time? Do we have anything new since your last, you haven't met in a couple of weeks, but any?
I mean, the date I keep hearing is July. I think they've been saying June, but I think we're going to be looking at that June, July-ish area for turnover.
Okay.
So
one of the things the committee will have to bring the topic up now into this is the transition of the units, the radios that are out there for the first responders, the fire and all that, those items that may not work with the new system. We may have funds that are going to help that. We're going to have to figure out a process that how is that going to work? Do they turn a radio in for a radio? Do I identify, do we go out and do a survey of what radios are out there, what the serial number, what the model number is, so that we make a fair transition? We're going to have to figure out maybe it's going to be a mini grant process that the county will do with the funds that they have to apply for certain things. That's something we're going to have to start looking at to replace some of those units that are out there if they need to be.
Yeah.
But that's something we will have to discuss with.
and there is federal and I believe state grant money as well available for that. and I believe, and Michael can correct me if if I haven't heard anything back, but I know that EMS did a regional grant for the county for some of that equipment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I just don't know if we've gotten any letters back on that yet.
Okay, so that's a whole project the structure is great, but we still have to have the end user's equipment. That's gonna be a piece that's gonna be coming up here fairly quickly. We're gonna have to.
I don't have any specific information on that grant, but the system that we're trialing with emergency management right now provides that VHF P25 digital radio coverage via the cellular network for LTE. So we're trialing that system now, seeing kind of how it works, how it's going to be able to be implemented, which could certainly help bridge a bit of a gap when we're looking at possibly having to acquire a large amount of radio equipment amongst many departments within the county. It's not the answer, but it is an answer for sure.
This is puzzles coming together. All right, have questions from the committee on this? Yes.
Last month you talked about the Uber tower. Is there any update on that?
Not that I've heard. So like I said, it's been a couple of weeks since we met, where we're kind of at the mercy of weather on that. And so when we last gave the approval to start the archaeological study on that site, then we had snow and we had that decent snowfall. Now that the snow is gone, hopefully they can proceed again with that archaeological study. But then again, if the ground's frozen, that may prohibit that as well too. So that's what we were waiting on, but it's the regulatory work now that we have to redo that we're waiting on. And one step of that was an archaeological study of the area. So.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Wish it had gone faster, but we are where we are right now. Okay, courthouse security report. I think the Judge had mentioned some of that. Anything new special on that?
I don't think there's any updates beyond what she stated.
Item number 8, approval of monthly invoices. We don't have any of those here today, so
Yeah,
I guess they're gonna get paid. We're gonna get it next month if we have to.
yeah, I guess I'm not quite sure why I don't have those, but I don't have them right now.
It's good to see those.
Yep.
Item number 9, correspondence. Any correspondence we need to be aware of? Okay. Item number 10, future agenda items. I will work with Mike to get the wording for the March agenda edition. And other than that, I also want to mention we will be doing a jail tour after that. The jail tour is not going to be part of the public. The sheriff secures the jail, and so the public will not be part of that meeting, which is why we will adjourn and then go to that as a committee. We will make no decisions at that point. That's just the annual jail tour that we're required to do. Questions on that? Hearing none, item 11, motion to adjourn. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn meeting.
Well, I mean, motion. Woodhouse seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.